Hi guys, I'm Jen. Welcome to my channel. Let's see, we've got a couple decks here. We have dream reading cards and sacred spirit reading cards. I really like both of these actually. I used to use these more when I got right into spirituality. Like I use these a lot more then, and I haven't used them a lot since, but I really enjoy them. So let's get some messages from your dreams here. Dream reading for my viewers. Courage/boldness, number 32. So step into courage despite your fears. Be willing to take a risk in order to gain more. Speak your truth. Okay, so tell me more about this. It's way too many. Tell me more about this. Energy signature. The past is in the present. Okay. Hidden realms create conscious awareness. Okay, let's see. I want to see what these are all about. I'm going to read the card just for the sacred spirit ones. Actually, I lied. I'm going to read both of them. Okay, so let's start courage/boldness, number 32. Run from what's comfortable, forget safety, live where you fear to live, and destroy your reputation. Be notorious. I love that. You have the strength and determination to invite boldness and courage into your life. To be courageous does not necessarily mean that you do not feel the fear. You just go ahead and do what you have to do anyways. You're all ready to take up new options as a change in your circumstances forces you to find the voice within. Whether you need to move house, sever relationships, call it quits, take a stand, or fight for an injustice, you will boldly follow through with your plans. You are tempted not to rock the boat, but by not standing up for yourself, you will lose yourself. Speak your truth. Don't hold back. Shine a torch for others too. Be bold and discard the old you that was too afraid to make waves. Instead, dare to make changes and lead the way. Dare to claim your power and stand firm in your own authenticity. You are no longer dependent on authoritative figures telling you what to do and who to be. Be brave, heroic, and inspiring to others. It is a test of courage from which you will emerge fully aware and ready to tackle future obstacles. That's a great message. Okay, let's see. I feel like this is something that may be blocking that decision. 14. The past is in the present. Expose what has been hidden. Oh, maybe not. So understanding that everything is energy. The air we breathe, the elements, emotions, sound, animals, people, our thoughts. All of this is energy. Quantum physics seeks to explain these phenomena. Denser or heavier energy can be felt by human beings' normal senses. So most people will already understand what it feels like to walk in a room where an argument has just taken place, filled with an unseen tension. People react to these sensations, perhaps with an immediate awkwardness or a feeling that they need to vacate the building. As people progress through life, familiar experiences such as patterned behaviors become more clear and evident as you pay attention to the energy of the environment, people, social gatherings, events, and places around you. It is up to you, though, to be proactive with this sense of inner vision. Often you may find yourself saying, I felt this before, or I recognize this, but I'm not sure why. Currently, you are being asked to read the energy of this issue and the people surrounding these circumstances. You must shine up a spotlight and use all your senses to remove these masks and expose the energy that is being hidden from you. Not only will you identify insincere and dishonest people, you will begin to understand patterns that you have created in your life that aren't serving you to the fullest. Right now, you must use your sensory and intuitive intelligence for answers. You have experienced this type of energy before, but you must ask, what is it? When recognized, you can adapt and modify your behavior and actions accordingly to avoid unnecessary arguments, tension, and toxic situations in your your social, work, or family environments. When practiced, reading the energy signatures of your environment becomes a built-in intuitive warning system. Prior to an issue occurring, you have the possibility of avoiding explosive exchanges, accidents, conflict, or confrontation as it becomes in line with your fight or flight response, creating self-awareness and energetic resilience. The shadow aspect here is fear-mongering, secrecy, escapist. And the sacred crystal is blue lace agate. And the angel assistance here is Archangel Gabriel, which I love working with Archangel Gabriel. For me, I've got a deck by Archangel Gabriel, and what I also like for me, it's like he's in charge of, or he or she, I don't know, is in charge of creativity. And Archangel Raphael, I use that angel a lot too with healing, and Archangel Michael for shield and protection. And so like with Archangel Gabriel, what I ask for whenever I go into my readings, I ask to give my viewers a different perspective, or an epiphany, a moment of epiphany, or like awakening, or like seeing something different that they weren't able to see before, or to allow it to hit differently than it was before, or bring my videos to those who are at a point where they're ready to receive the information, whereas before they would have just deflected it and said, yeah, that's not for me. So like that's how I work with that. And the affirmation here is, I remove the illusion that hides the truth. The answer is before me. So that's going to be calling that in. When you say that, I remove the illusion that hides the truth. The answer is before me. That opens you up to receiving what you're wanting to see. For me, the best way I did this was, it was interesting because so I already recognized these things that were happening within my family. And then when I was in the workplace, after I'd recognized that in the family, then I was able to see how my family members were being shown in my workplace, and just the personality types and the different sort of like, there's some people that are just miserable and they're not afraid, who knows it, but there's some people who have ulterior motives, and they want to be seen in a certain positive light, but they're not positive. They're greedy and they're controlling, and they want others to think that they're kind and giving, so that people keep giving to them while they keep giving less. Like the people who are controlling and manipulative, like they're trying to get something for nothing. They're greedy. They have a different agenda. And so the sooner you can recognize this, I had to recognize this in 2 different workplaces. So I have in both of them, I consider like training grounds, because like the one was for 2 years, and that was a real good training ground for me to see who was in there. But then when I was in another workplace for 6 months, it really gave me like ideas of who people were and how they were showing up, without actually having to like invest too much in them of myself. So like it was just like more of a I felt like that second round was more like a confirmation round of like, okay, this is how it shows up. And now I'm seeing it where I'm not like it's people that I come into contact with throughout my day kind of thing, but like I'm still seeing not only like how they still kind of show up, and where it's still just not good enough for me to be like, that's their acquaintance, they're not a friend, so like in this whole process, it's helped me refine it, who's for me and who's not, and who is a real friend and who is not, and who's a real partner and who is not. But it also has allowed me to take a look at like, okay, I need to stop. Like the initial issue was like, for me, was over investing in the wrong people. And when you let them into your shelter, like they're going to be the ones setting fire to the house kind of thing, right? Like not just metaphorically. So like I guess. And so I had to learn like, why do I keep opening the door to these people? So I had to recognize who these people was one side of things. But then I also had to recognize like, how was I showing up? So like when this is a consistent thing, is like whenever I create boundaries, when I first started creating boundaries, I was so excited and I thought I'd done it. I'm like, this is boundaries, cool. But what I realized later was like, there's different revisions of boundaries, and you just keep having to learn how to like refine it. And the same process was for me showing up to other people, and how I felt like I got good at where I thought I got good at not sharing all my information, but I didn't. And so this is something I'm still having to revise. Like, I don't know why I still feel the need. I feel like it's like a guilty conscience, but I shouldn't have a guilty conscience. And so it's like, why do I feel that it's almost like I have to explain myself to everybody that I need help from. Like anyone that is in a position where I'm needing assistance from them, it's like I feel like I have to. This is like me calling into sick and like telling them, like the whole story of like why I'm sick. But I'm like, you just got to call in and say you're not showing up. But for me, I'm like, well, I thought we had to explain like why we weren't showing up, And so like there's different ways of where I have to keep revising this and say like, you know what, they don't need the details. They don't want the details. It's not that deep. But for me, it's like, I think in the past, like I felt like if I didn't have a good reason to get help, it's almost like I wouldn't get help. It's like I felt like I had to give all this of myself in order to get a little bit of help, And And I just saying it now, it makes me feel like, I had to like really, I think there's probably some ass kissing in there. There's probably some like, really making myself appear small so the other person felt big. But like, why do I have to make myself feel small in order to get support? Like I should be entitled to the same support as other people if I've gone through a rough time, and if I'm not showing up a certain way, just because like I still need support. That doesn't mean just because you need to wait for me to get this low in order to get support. Like if I'm paying into the support, then I get support because I need it, So, and let's see what this Hidden Realms is. So create conscious awareness and analyze your dream cycles. So traditionally, shamans are the gatekeepers to the hidden realms of ancient wisdom and magic, accessing the hidden realms for further meaning and insight into a soul's pain or an individual's disease. Using conscious communication, the shaman works to bridge the realms between humanity and creation. So communicating with the elements, the elementals, nature, animal realms, ancestors, angelic forces, and spiritual beings that serve humanity as guardians, guides, teachers, and masters, and more is the role of the shaman. These ancient practices have been developed and refined across time as shamans, seers, visionaries, serving their communities as mediators between the human experience and the world of nature. Restoring power to those who have experienced disempowerment or physical experience, shamanic practitioners reconnect the aspects of the soul that have been lost through trauma or life experiences. So right now you're being asked to connect to the hidden realms, expanding your consciousness to open your mind wide and reconnect with your soul for deep healing and transformation. There's much to be learned from the hidden realms that can assist you in your waking life. Examine your dream cycles and interpret your subconscious messages. Creating conscious awareness will allow you to actively connect to your universal guides, the elements, and celestial realm. Like any learned skill, practice will improve the strength of your connection. Pay attention to any symbols, animals, or visual images that appear in your life now, as there is deep meaning that applies to you. The shadow aspect here is social disconnection, daydreaming, and codependency. And the sacred crystal is Numite. And the angel assistance here is Guardian Angel Celia, Psychic and Spiritual Awakening, Transformation. And the affirmation is, I am a clear and successful mediator of conscious divine communication. Oh, I like that one. I do feel like I'm coming back into my spirituality after, like when I first came into this area, like it was very confusing, and I learned a lot since that first moment, entering sort of like the spiritual community, where there's a lot of different ideas, there's a lot of different practices, there's a lot of different people, there's a lot of different narcissists, there's a lot of people still trying to control other people through, so like no matter where you go in life, like it's always important to be able to read through between the lines and pick up on and trust your intuition when something's happening. Be like, is this happening for me? Is this someone not having good intentions? And I partner sort of that unseen message and sign that I'm receiving, and I partner it with other things that are physical. So like, someone who's complaining all the time is probably not someone who's more focused on solving the problem, right? And so little signs like this, like someone who smiles with their face but not their eyes, like, oh, it's so good to see you, like that kind of stuff, like micro expressions. These are all things like you can utilize all together to get the messages that you need from the situation at hand. And there's other things like if you get too woo-woo and you lose sight of like your like you need to stay tied to the two, because it's like if you get too up in the sky, like you still need to, if you're going to miss a bill, you still need to call them, right? Like you're still going to get, like that's still going to be an issue. So some people get, and not just some people, I used to get this too, where I'm just like, I was lucky to where I got to the point where I'm like, okay, like I'm still okay, but just skipping the water there, where it's like, it's important to have a bit of both worlds. That's what I find, a bit of both worlds. And in both worlds, I have like what my belief system is in both, like the 3D and the 5D, and then we can say reality and the dream world, we'll say, or the unseen energies. So like there's things where there's some things outside of my experience where I'm aware of them, but I'm like, I just don't have experience in them yet. So it doesn't mean I don't believe in them. I just don't know much about them quite yet. And then same like, the same happened for me in the real world, where it's like, I've been pushed into an area of life where I'm just like, I don't have experience here, so I don't really know how it shows up. So I'm relying on a bit of my spiritual knowledge to guide me in along this path to see like, okay, is this safe? Okay, you're showing me I'm safe. Okay, so like there's some things that you just can't explain, and the timing of them, and so like you got to factor those kind of features in to say like, there is some things to the unknown here that we don't know anything about, and like what are those things. And it concerns me, like, especially when they speak on like the nature of things and how that is used for a message for us, and there's some greedy people in the world that are trying to destroy those aspects of nature, where it's like these are parts of, these are the things how we recover ourselves, like in the nature of the earth. And so like if you want to remove those sort of things and destroy all the bees and the bugs and the animals and the wildlife, like that's of the wrong agenda. And so I think that's important to take a look. Like there's like some people just want to live up in their bubble and be like, oh, it's not that bad, or it's not that big of a deal. And while we're meant to focus on our own page, and like we're all supposed to come together with our own gifts to form that sort of wall of like unity, like we all have our puzzle piece to fit in there. And if there's people that are just like, not acknowledging that they need to help in this matter, like those are the ones that are like where the holes are, I feel. And like we need to all come together in whatever way that we're capable of, like really forming like a protective barrier for all of humankind. And in a way, there are some people that are just greedy, and I just don't understand this. Like maybe they aren't human, because like when you look at someone who's human, they have humanity. And these people, like, I don't know if it's just like they've just been closed off at such a young age, where I don't know. I don't have experience in that. I can only speak for myself and what I've been through and what I've experienced and what I find has helped me, and what I've experienced in other people when I do these things and how it shows up. And like that's how I try to show, like, it's if you're relying on someone to come up and say I hate you in order to know that they don't like you and they're not for you, that's you're going to be in that cycle for a long time. So a lot of people that they may hate you, but they're willing to take from you because they can't provide that for themselves, right? So just be aware of that. What do I want to get? Let's get a color card. Okay, so we have this. We have the Hidden Realms. I like that. What more can you tell us about this situation? What more guidance can we get? I love that. Look how pretty that is. The pearl. Yeah, something so simple, just a close-up of a pile of pearls can change energy. Okay, so like connect to the divine. So when you're struggling and you feel like you don't have what you need, there's so many things that you can find in life to change your energy. For me, energy isn't just going to a Reiki healer and removing blocks from your body, because that's like a massage. If you don't actually learn where those blocks are coming from and why you're being depleted, and it's kind of like I actually spoke about this earlier. It's like, if I don't close the cold breeze through my front door, I'm gonna have a cold breeze. If I don't fix my house so like the energy isn't escaping, this is like an auric field, I guess. And where people talk about it as an auric field, and they put a lot of attention of like, you can do some visual work and you do smudging and crystal work to help strengthen your auric field, but if you have a number of bullets still hitting it, it's gonna break. So and you're also like up close to that target, I feel like. So for me, I had to learn boundaries to protect my auric field, if you would say. So because like there's some woo-woo ideas about like, oh, you just got to keep smudging your space, you just got to keep cleansing your auric field, you got to like see stuff, entering your head down to the root, and that's wonderful, and that can be really therapeutic. But if you are still in line with people that you don't know are hurting you, and you're not willing to speak up for yourself, then they're going to keep hurting you. And you're going to be in a line of fire where you're constantly getting that destruction and injured and disease because you're not sticking up for yourself. So like if you're at the hands of the bully and you never turn around and stick up to the bully, what you're going to be picked on because the bully sees you as a easy target. So you got to build strength and fight back. And for me, that it doesn't always mean right away, like, coming at the hands of the predator or the is it, would you call that persecutor? Like, but what it is like I'm having to remove myself from that environment and get to a safer space. It's crazy to think, and this is where I was in that crazy mind of thinking I can tolerate this. I can tolerate this abuse. Like, doesn't that sound wild when you say it? I can tolerate this abuse. So like if you don't recognize how you're being treated as abuse, then you're just saying, well, this is just my life. But it doesn't have to be your life. You got to wake up and say, like, at what point, this is like when I was a letter carrier, and I'm like, well, I really like this job because it's good for exercise, but I'm discounting the fact that I'm carrying so much weight and it was affecting my shoulders and my, like in here, I had a lot of pain. And it's like, at what point, now part of that was my fault because I was carrying too heavy at times, don't get me wrong. But a lot of it too is like these people are getting us to carry flyers for 10 different pizza places. Like, who needs that much pizza? And it's just the message in it, right? Like, why am I delivering? Like, is there not, I had to move away from that environment because I'm like, I'm worthy of more. Like, I have more up here than just running flyer. I was like a mule. Like, and while there's nothing wrong with that job, it's a temporary job where I feel like we're meant to level up in life. And like, maybe you start in your young 20 to 30s and that's what I would do. And then now my 30s to 40s, I feel like do something different. Like, and I don't like that should there, but it's like, you're not meant to be working at a factory all your life. That is gonna numb your brain. That is not what you're meant for. You're meant to tear up. Okay. So like, so when you sit there and say like, I'm just going to stay in this factory environment, I'm just using my excuse. If I were to stay in this factory environment for the rest of my life, what that looks like is people who are greedy because like, this is where I just find an issue with these large corporations and these large factories. And if these products were made by everyday people in their own homes, living a life that they love, I think that would that would show up better than what's happening with the pollution of these huge corporations with these huge machines. And I think you would get more creative spins on this. I don't know. I just think it's, and so like when you go into these environments, they're just greedy for the dollar and they don't care about the worker. So like imagine you have like a family environment in this factory, but then you are your own, boss in your own home. And so like you get to work maybe with your family, and when you've got that family that you've co-created together, that is, you know how to work well, it's a happy home. But like that's not what's happening in these factories. That's not a happy home. That is a lead, someone at the top who is looking to get money for them and their family, and they don't care how they get it. They're not like treating their employees properly. So like that's when if you think you're working in a family-based business, is it really family-based? Like, and what kind of family-based is that? Is it toxic? Is it abusive? You know what I mean? So like I would use like my family environment. I could see it playing out in my workplace. And because that was what was within me, and those are the patterns that were playing out from the past in my present. And so what I use is the ability to see like, I've explained this before in another video, like when someone's showing up and I'll get a picture of someone in my family, I'm like, that person is remind me of that person. Someone who's smiling in my face. You can tell they don't like me. Maybe they're not, they haven't put as much work into their body. So they're now envious of me, but I'm like, I'm not eating all the shit that she's eating, but she's angry at me. Like, make it make sense, but she'll be friendly because she wants to get close to you to copy like every aspect about you, but she hates you. It's a really odd thing. And they'll pretend to be like you. And it's really odd. And I've had family members do this. So it's just like a really odd, when you get good at recognizing in your family, then you can use that and you can apply it to other areas of life to be like, okay, this person's showing up like this. And then what happens is you're like, you know what? Okay, this person, you got to transition out of that, because as you elevate the people around you, I do think like you're still, from what I believe, like I'm still in this transition, but I think like you're still going to obviously meet like miserable people. because they're everywhere. But I wonder if it's like, when you're out of sight, out of mind. And I don't want it to be like that in the way that like we're ignoring people who are struggling in life, because I don't think that's fair either, because I don't want to forget where I came from. But at the same time, there's some people, I think there's different peoples at lower levels. There's some people that just don't want to do anything for themselves. And there's other people down there beside them that have been used and abused all their life from the other person. And so like, that's where like your health will eventually take a toll on you. And so it just gets to the point where you're just like, I'm so tired of trying and I just don't have the energy, and my iron is low, and my, my body is this and my mind is that, and like, you get to a place. So I think it's important, like even as I level up, I'm like seeing people that are more on my peer level, but I'm still not seeing like the understanding of experience that I have. And they may have other ones, and they're probably thinking the same thing. Like she thinks she knows this, but what she doesn't know is like, I learned this in school. And so it's not about like a tit for tat or a competition. It's like, how can we learn together from each other, instead of saying I know more than she does. Like how do we bridge that gap of being able to say like, acknowledging I don't know everything, because when you think you know everything, that's a God complex, right? And you're not God. None of us are. No matter how much work compared to me, to somebody else, like just because you've done more work, that doesn't make you more godlike. It just means you've recognized the patterns. You know how to benefit from it. You've worked on something. It's just like someone who's an artist. Like my skill level with cards could be different than someone who's an artist. Like I'm not going to tell an artist how to paint. If I'm going to say what I prefer, like I like this aesthetically, but like I'm not going to be like, well, that brush stroke shouldn't be like that. Like I don't know. So the idea is also like, sorry, I got a little carried away. In order to move energy, what that meant for me was also moving my belief systems around so I could perceive something different than I had received it before. So this is like before feeling like I'm disempowered, and now I'm going to recognize, well, this person is doing this because of this. So then I'm going to speak up because I know I'm right, because I have experience in this, and now I'm empowering myself. And now I'm walking out of that environment instead of running towards those buildings, right? So like it's a different sort of, that's an energy shift. So energy happens like that too. Energy can say, like some people get tattoos to remind themselves of certain events, and so maybe that's something. I don't find help in that, but yeah, I have a lot of lessons under my belt that has really cemented some of these things in there. So I don't know, you got to do what you feel good with, and like, and not think that just because you don't have crystals or cards, or like, you can use your environment that you have. You can use TV shows that show up. They're gonna I've seen it happen in TV shows where I'm like, wow, that sounds a lot like what I've experienced. And so it's going to show you, and then sometimes how that happens is it's going to show you the pieces that you didn't get to see. Now this is a little sketchy, because like, I've seen readings where it's like they all sounded like me, and I really thought like they were very good at convincing me like this person was doing something different, and they weren't. And so like there's things where you just gotta partner these things up and cut and paste together, which is your experience. So like, you know what? I don't go back to people of my past, because I'm growing, and my interest is in growing and becoming better and doing better. And I want to equal give and take. And those people weren't evil. They weren't evil. They just weren't capable of meeting me where I was at, or being honest, or being vulnerable. And that's important to me, because I'm honest and I'm vulnerable, and I love working with people. But those people didn't want to work with me because they couldn't show up honest, So like, that's where it's just like, it's not even like a hate thing or anything. I just we're not compatible, as a partner, as a person, as a friend. And so like, that's where I move towards people who are more compatible, where I feel like, you know what, when I say this, they say this, instead of, trying to make me feel some sort of a small way, right? Instead of competing. And so you also got to be careful when you come out of the competitive arena, that I had to be careful that I'm not placing that on new people, and I had to give them a chance of like showing me who they were, listening to that. And then how I do is like, I just if I'm put in an experience where I'm allowed to question them, and when they let me question them, they didn't get upset. They could see where the questions were coming from, because it makes sense to them, right? So like, that's where who's for you and who's not. When the questions show up, is there like a passive aggressive punishment, or is there like a, no, I totally get why you're asking that, I would ask that too. And so that's kind of what I felt more in that direction. And although I'm not instead of 50% not knowing, I'm more like 75% on that person, and I still have some information to gain. It's not like I'm just gonna like trust right there. You have all my trust. Here's my bag of trust. You get it. Just because you were a little bit more different than the other person, like I'm positive that's good. You're showing up like that, but I still, I'm not just gonna. It's never about just handing yourself over to anybody completely, and so the energy is helpful because when I would feel alone and I would feel by myself and I really valued like connection and physical touch, like I would go, instead of going to my ex, where like that's where I had fond memories of that. Now I'm kind of like, oh, the ick factor's there. But I would go to get a massage done. And so like that substitutes and that changes that energetic sort of like craving to now I'm getting nurtured, I'm getting cherished, I'm getting cared for. Yes, I'm paying for it. And so like, not to go too far the other way either, but like it really gives you that thing that you need, that human connection without the overinvestment. So like these are things that shift my energy and allow me to move further away from the toxicity and closer to the higher vibration and what is meant for me, the prosperity and the abundance and the health and the beauty in life, right? So like there's steps that you got to take to get there, and like these are the substitutes. Kind of like it's like putting like a wedge in the door instead of your foot. I'm going to hold that space and I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do this. And in order to close that chapter, I'm going to prepare this next area so that I can close that door. And when I get to this next area, now I have everything that I need in that area. And what that looks like is I know I have tools that when I feel lonely, I can go get a massage. Or when I feel like I need a hug or that human connection, I can go get a massage from someone that is a professional person. And I also watch like ASMR videos where when I didn't have the money for like, getting a spa treatment or a massage, I'd also go inwards and be like, what hurts? And I do my own massage and get a tennis ball and I work that out. Is it ideal? No, but like it's better than nothing. So between nothing and a massage, sometimes you have to get a tennis ball to work it out in your shoulder, right? Sometimes you have to look at substitutes. And so I'd also use things like, you got to do the same thing with food. Instead of like going 0 to 90, you just find like, so my idea is like, when I can get better with sugar, I'm going to have to partner it with fiber and protein because that hit of sugar, the refined sugar is too much for me. So like things like dates have a lot of other vitamins. So I'm going to get other vitamins in that date, but I still have to like moderate that, right? So like there's just different things where you just have to gradually build yourself up in order to shift that energy slowly. And some things like, leaving a workplace, that's like closing a door and saying, I'm not going back, right? But then the energy movement happens not just with the closing of the door. You can't just stop there and say, I deserve good energy because I left a workplace. Now you have to release all that you collected in that workplace, and you have to like clarify it and process it and be like, what just happened there? Okay, and how am I going to use that information moving forward so I get something different? Because it's not just in the closing of the door, it's like the processing in between before you step into a new process. And that's why I don't think some healthcare and society, the way it's set up, it isn't like they just want you to like get back into there. They just want you to get back working. And that's the problem I have. It's like, if you're your own home-based business, like you get to make these rules, and that's how it benefits you. And I feel like that's kind of why we've moved away from this. It's like we've got all these people who are like bosses at the top, and like they really don't allow any sort of human aspect to yourself in there. And I understand they have a bottom line, but at the same time, like you're a human. And if we were to revise some of these things, I wonder if that would be helpful for the human aspect. And I don't know, like it's just, and if it's not happening for you in that environment, you got to take things into your own hands and walk away and create something for yourself. And that's what I've chose. Like I have to learn how to do something different for me, because I just see how the factory world that I am in, and I don't think this is just in the factory. I think this happens like all throughout, like you hear about probably in nursing and the hospitals. This can happen in any workplace, like wherever there's a human and a dynamic going on, like that can happen. When you don't have the right leadership in place, that's where this runs wild. When you don't have people that can recognize it, and that's why it's important for you to start recognizing it and trusting yourself when you see it, when it shows up, and that it's not always going to be like the bully who's a bitch. It's going to be the bully who gives you chocolate and then talk shit behind your back. You know, that's where it's like, you got to start getting used to recognizing how these things show up. Like, to me, the most smiley, friendly, caramel covered words person is like one of the most dangerous, because like they're just like, they're so rehearsed, and they're just the wrong, I don't know, you know what I mean, if you feel it. Like, it's just like, it's like everything you say they agree with. Like, how can you agree on everything? Someone who's uncomfortable with disagreeing, that's not human. You know, and I was a people pleaser at some point. So like, that's something I'm working through, is where like, I would feel like I'd always want to say good things to my kids. But like, I feel like if I always say good things, then like, that's not, like, maybe I don't like that painting to my daughter. Like, she's an artist. And there would be some things where I'm like, you know what, okay, so I like this photo, but this one's, you know, or I'm just like, I'd say, love that one. And then I'd skip a couple and then, oh, I love that one. Like, you can't love everything about, like, you know, that's, we all have our own, you know, taste. And then, so that was a challenge for me, is then to try to like speak up and say things that I don't think they want to hear. So, I don't want to get too lost in this conversation, but the most important thing is like, energy can happen easily. It can be changed easily. The energy can switch in a moment, and it can take years to switch. It's up to you to recognize like what needs changing and how to go about changing it, and acknowledging that you don't need like a Reiki certificate. You don't need a shaman. You don't need, this is stuff you can do within yourself. Just look for it. Just look for your, if you know like you're unhappy in your family pattern, that's going to be a good sign. If things aren't working out for you and you're not happy, go ask why. And then and let the answers come in without like judgment. Well, this could be someone having so much money and they're still miserable, and this may be because they lack purpose and passion, and they were raised, you know, in a field where they know how to make a lot. This could be someone who's being a doctor and they want to be an artist. You know, I just don't love being a doctor. There's something about it, like I was pushed into it. I never wanted to be a doctor. Maybe there's someone out there who's an artist that wants to be a doctor. but because their parents were artists, that's the lifestyle, and they really love the structure and the precision of being a surgeon. You know what I mean? So like, who are you and what are you going after and why? That's all. And find out why do we do what we do. And you can start with your family patterning and go from there, and find out like, this is why I do what I do. And so yeah, if this is something you're just starting on, be sure to like and subscribe. This is the kind of stuff I talk about. I help to recognize patterns and how we can be keeping ourselves stuck, and how to get out of these sort of things and into something better. So if that's you and you're working on this, you're in the right spot. And I'm going to end this reading here. It's time to connect to the divine, and these are believing the things that you can't see. So these are trusting your intuition. This is developing your intuition. And if this is all new to you, for me, I had to start working on my emotions before I could get in touch with my intuition, because people were pulling my emotions and controlling me by my emotions, and I was unraveling my emotions. And so when all that waterworks is happening, and then that steam and anger and frustration, it's hard to see through it clearly. And so emotional work is first, and then you can really get in touch with your intuition. And then when you start to gain confidence in what you're seeing and in the patterns that you're actually seeing, then you can start stepping up and practicing your voice, and standing up for yourself, and removing yourself from under that bully's foot, and moving out and being independent of yourself. So I'll try to put something into maybe a better video of like how I did that myself and how I do it myself moving forward. So if you find this helpful, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.